Hey everybody, I'm Candace and I am so glad that you're here. Now, what's one thing that we all have in common? It's family. Now, when I say family, I mean the people that we live with and go through life with. They're the people that we are stuck together with. But just because we all have a family, it doesn't mean that each family looks the same. For some of us, family means one parent and a few siblings, or it may mean two parents and no siblings. It may mean a mother, a stepmother, a father, a stepfather, 4 half-brothers and sisters, or maybe it means 3 dogs, your dad, his girlfriend who lives with you, and her daughter. Maybe your family is one that adopted you, or the aunt and uncle that you live with now. Or maybe it's the foster family that you live with, or the friends around you who feel more like your family. Each of our families looks different, and each of us has a different experience with our family too. Some of us might love being with our family, but for others of us, family is a difficult thing to navigate. It can be complicated. No matter what it looks like, we all come from or are a part of a family of some kind, whether it's the family that we're born with or the family that we choose. So let me introduce you to my family. Here's a picture. This is me, my sister, and my brother. My sister, she always knows what bothers me. And my brother, he's the type that knows what's going to embarrass you, but still does it anyway. Like, who does that? My dad, he and I, we've never really had that great of a relationship because, well, it's just complicated. But even though they do all of that, they are typically the loudest ones cheering for me. And guess what else? No matter how close we are, no matter how frequently we talk, no matter how we do or don't get along, no matter what might happen in our family, no matter how often I even see them, I'm stuck with them because they're always going to be my family. And I can't change that. I might not always love being stuck with them, but I do love them all. Now, I know some people have a hard time saying that they love their family, and I get it. Trust me, I do. Family can be stressful, unpredictable, even exhausting at times. Fighting, health issues, divorce, lying, rules we don't understand, arguing, all these things and more can make family a lot more complicated. Then add faith to that list. For some of us, faith is a big part of our lives, and it's a big part of our family members' lives as well. But for some of us, faith can make things even more complicated in our families. Maybe you know this is true because your faith is really important to you. And that's complicated because you have parents or siblings or a step-parent who doesn't see faith the same way that you do. They believe something totally different than you, and you feel strange about that. It's like you're on 2 totally different pages. Or maybe for some of you, it's the adults that you live with who are really into this Jesus stuff. But if you're honest, you aren't that interested. You're not sure what you think about God and faith and all that comes with it. But your family wants you to be sure. Now that can definitely make faith a difficult thing to navigate in your family. Or maybe you aren't really sure about how your faith mixes with your family. Maybe you've been in church because you got family who are in church. But as you've gotten older, you're starting to wonder if you really do believe what they believe. And you're not sure how to talk to your people about the doubts and the questions that you have when it comes to your faith. In one way or another, faith can create tension in families. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, that's wild and hard to believe because I've always learned that faith is supposed to make things better. But with family, that doesn't always feel like it's true. So the question we should ask ourselves is, if faith can create tension in our families, how do we make sure that our faith is actually helping to make our families better? The good news is, I have an answer to that question. There was a guy named John, one of Jesus' closest friends and followers. He wrote it down so that we could learn from it still today. Now, before I tell you exactly what Jesus said, let me explain a little bit about what was happening when he said it. Right before Jesus was about to be arrested and eventually killed on the cross, he called all of his closest friends and followers together for a meal. Even though Jesus had warned them that he was going to die, these guys didn't really understand. It didn't click with them that this was going to be their last meal that they shared together as a family. In their minds, they were just doing what they always did together, sitting around a table, sharing a meal, and talking about life. Because Jesus knew the way that things were about to go, he wanted to share a few important words with his closest people. At that dinner, he dropped this important truth. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. That word disciples simply means someone who follows Jesus. According to Jesus' words here, the best way for people to know we love and follow and believe in him is to love other people. Jesus knew that difficult times were coming for his friends and his family. They will be scared, treated terribly for believing Jesus was who he said that he was, and even tempted to turn their backs on him. Yet when it all came down to it, Jesus took this opportunity to remind them that loving each other was the most important thing that they could do. It's the way that they could show the world that they believed in Jesus. It's how their faith could make an impact even after Jesus wasn't with them on earth anymore. And you know what? The same can be true in our families. If we want faith to actually impact our family for the good, then we have to start here. We have to start with love, because loving your family can make an impact. Trust me, I know personally that this isn't always easy. Loving our family the way that Jesus asks us to can really be difficult. In fact, some days it might be the hardest thing that you're called to do on that very day. But the good news is, I think that Jesus knew that. I think that's why he didn't leave us to figure out how to do it all on our own. A few years after Jesus' death and resurrection, a guy named Paul wrote down a bunch of letters to churches to instruct and encourage them in their faith. And honestly, a lot of people who received these letters were a lot like us. They were just trying to figure out how this whole faith thing impacted their lives in a real everyday way. In one of his letters, Paul explained it for them. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. When Jesus calls us to love one another, this is what he's asking us to do: to be patient, kind, humble, respectful, and selfless, to not get upset easily or hold grudges. Now, that part is hard. To protect, trust, hope, and stick together with the people around us, to love our family the way that Jesus calls us to love them. You see, loving your family can make an impact. Love is where it starts. Now, for all of you who want to tune me out right now because you're thinking, Candace, you really don't know my family. You're right, I don't. But hear me say this. For some of you, I know that loving your family may look different because circumstances out of your control. If you've been hurt by a family member, or if your family situation is difficult to navigate, I really want you to know that I'm sorry. I always want you to know that there are a lot of ways to love your family like Jesus. Sometimes loving your family doesn't always mean being connected to the family members who have hurt you. You can still love your family like Jesus calls us to by doing things like showing patience or respect or using kind words. No matter what you believe or what your family believes, when it comes to faith in Jesus, this is something that we can all do. We can all try to love the people in our families a little more. So this week, here's what I want you to consider. What would it look like for you to love your family? Think about the people who make up your family. The parents, the siblings, the guardians, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, the friends, the foster family, your friend's family. Ask yourself what it might look like to show your love to the people that you consider family. Then start by doing just one thing. Do just one thing to show love to your family this week. You can even start with the stuff that Paul listed in his letter. Focus on just one thing and see if demonstrating your love for your family in that way makes an impact. Honestly, I think it will. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Basically, love is stronger than hate. Love is what changes people. Love is what faith is all about. And even if it doesn't change them, it can change you. And that's important too. Remember, loving your family can make an impact.